there are no vegan rapists in the prisons of the world. You go find me a vegan rapist. I'd love to hear about a story. I'll show you prisons around the world full of meat, dairy, and egg-eating rapists and child molesters and murderers and people that rob and steal. In fact, I'll even take it a step further when we talk about health. Go find me a hospital with a bunch of sick vegans in it. I'll show you hospitals full of people with heart disease, cancers, diabetes, osteoporosis, kidney problems, etc., all stemming from animal protein, the main cause of every major disease on this planet.
Welcome to The Cannabis Vegan. I'm Jason Logic. On today's show, we're going to be diving a bit deeper and looking more into the raw cannabis juice amazingness as we get the interview of the woman that has gotten off all pharmaceuticals, as well as diving a bit deeper into William Courtney's research and movie, Leaf. This and more from The Cannabis Vegan.
You have clothes on, and I notice that you have a cell phone and you have a computer. It is unfair to pick one thing that lions do that you want to mimic when you don't want to mimic anything else they do. When lions walk up and greet each other, they sniff each other's ass. When I came in this room, you did not kneel down and sniff my ass.
Moving on to our next story, where this is why don't you try this.com. Now, obviously, I've been talking very heavily about this, and before we jumped into the first part of this film here, I wanted to show you the amazing health benefits of, again, cannabis. Okay, when we're juicing cannabis, it really shows so much promise. In raw form, cannabis leaves and buds are actually loaded with non-psychoactive antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, natural compounds known as cannabidiol, CBD, okay? That is proving to be a miracle superfood capable of preventing and reversing a host of chronic illnesses and diseases. Even though it doesn't say that, I'm letting you know my research and development as well. Now, being the cannabis vegan that I am, I have this daily. I encourage you to have it daily. Please, guys, understand that cannabis, is technically just a vegetable. Though you may not have heard much about it, the CBD found to have cannabis plants so much higher content by you utilizing it through a juicing format, okay? So is a highly medical substance with unique immune regulating capabilities. Now again, guys, do your research and understand that there's not very many things out there that can do these things at all. I really encourage you guys go to this article and really go and do your research on this. A lot of articles are going to be a lot of flim-flam. Sometimes they're going to lead you to different things, but this is straight through Dr. Courtney's site here, through some of his work, through his peer-reviewed sites and things. So I encourage you guys to really do your homework, guys. And here we go.
My name is Dr. William Courtney. I'm involved in the raw use of cannabis as a dietary essential. In that capacity, you can use 60 times more than you can tolerate if heated, and in that capacity is a very potent anti-inflammatory that will find a very broad population of interest in this country.
I'm Donald Abrams, and I'm Chief of Hematology Oncology at San Francisco General Hospital and a Professor of Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. I do research in medical cannabis applications. I mean, if cannabis were discovered in an Amazon rainforest today, people would be clamoring to make as much use as they could of all of the potential benefits of the plant. I think, unfortunately, it carries with it, a long, maybe not so long history of being a persecuted plant.
5 years ago, I wouldn't prescribe cannabis for a fellow I went to medical school with because I was such a skeptic. And now it's real clear to me that cannabis is a vegetable. It's not psychoactive until humans alter it chemically. No other animal alters it. So the whole psychoactive thing is a human aspect of the plant that has nothing to do with the 34 million years of evolution that the plant has. It's captured these molecules that help our body's regulatory system be more effective. And its bottom line is it's a dietary essential that helps all 210 cell types function more effectively. And so I never even refer to it as medicine anymore. Strictly as a dietary essential. It only becomes medicine once you have a breakdown and a condition has become very serious and the system, your body is being overwhelmed. Then cannabis can be manipulated, i.e. heated, concentrated, to become a medicine. But in its best form, it's a preventative. And preventing diabetes is a lot better than trying to treat it. Preventing cancer is a lot better than trying to treat it.
I think cannabis is a medicine that is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and probably has some direct activity against cancerous cells. So,
the federal patent is phenomenal. The Department of Health and Human Services since 2003 has had intellectual property on CBD, and CBD is a molecule that's coming out of the shadows from THC. It doesn't produce that psychoactive. The majority of my patients don't want to get high at 8 o'clock in the morning and be high all day long. But a lot of them do have arthritis, car accidents, autoimmune disorders, rheumatoid, and they start out their day in pain, and they're in pain most of the day long. And so they're looking for relief but clarity, and that's what these eating the plant raw. And that's, you not only need CBD. CBD is a non-psychoactive, whether it's CBD acid, which is how it's found in the raw plant, or CBD, which is what happens after you cook it or heat it or steep it or turn it into tea or something. But THC acid is the real tricky molecule in the raw plant, totally non-psychoactive, phenomenally beneficial as a molecule. Once it's heated, it turns into THC, and then the tolerable dose drops from hundreds of milligrams a day to 10. And with 10 milligrams, you stimulate the CB1 receptor, you get that psychoactive effect, either dysphoria or euphoria, but you walk away from 99% of the benefits of this plant, which are bone remodeling, intestinal function, neural function, inflammation control, cancer, precancerous detection. This plant can do phenomenal things, but not if you're taking 10 milligrams rather than the 600 milligrams that the FDA is currently approving as an investigative new drug.
My name is Kristen Piskuski, and I went from being bedridden and on over 40 medications a day to control my health problems to being a mother, to being healthy, happy, and vital thanks to using green leaf that I juice on a daily basis. Yeah, I was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis when I was 16, and then interstitial cystitis, painful bladder condition, endometriosis, cervical cancer. I was told I was sterile and would never have children, and hypothyroidism, chronic infections. I've had 16 surgical procedures, and I'm resistant to most antibiotics and have chronic infections, and I can't take a lot of Western medicine drugs because of the allergies that I have. I also have asthma. I'm allergic to most environmental factors and different skin rashes, and I have a broken back in 3 places.
So how did you discover this new way of juicing?
I discovered cannabis was helpful for the conditions because when I would smoke cannabis for pain, I had fewer infections. So I started to look into whether cannabis was doing more than just masking the pain. And I moved to California to be able to use cannabis legally, but I still didn't have the type of healing that I anticipated with smoked and heated cannabis. So after talking to several cannabis physicians and attending different lectures, I found out that there's the THC acid and CBD acid that you get in the raw form have medicinal properties that are better at helping my immune system to communicate. So as soon as I began doing that, it took about 6 weeks and I was infection free and all of my conditions went into remission.
And what many of my patients do is they plant a plant every day and they pick a plant every day. If you let the plant grow to a certain size, you may be able to use half a plant a day. So a plant therefore would last for 2 days. So therefore you need one plant every other day. So the total number of plants depends on whether you have a plant a day, a plant every other, or a plant every 3 days, depending on the space available. But most of them are trying to do this whole thing on a single 400-watt light. And they use a fluorescent light to keep a mother alive, and they produce a clone. They start a plant. They pick the whole plant, strip the leaf and flower, juice that. Good indication that the roots are also useful. Stalk is a little fibrous, can destroy, can bind up a lot of juicers and ruin the juicer because it's just so strong. So I generally strip the stalk and throw that away because it's just too fibrous. But juice that, it produces a small amount of juice, very concentrated, quite acidic. Yeah, that has to be diluted. You can dilute it with fresh vegetable juice, fruit juice, or something that you buy off the shelf.
The only time I've needed antibiotics in the last 4 years is when I was unable to do the juicing regime because I was overseas. And as well, I was pregnant for the first time with my daughter Zahaya. And when I came back, I had a horrible sinus infection, and they were unable to treat it with 3 different antibiotics, and the rheumatologist at UCSF I was working with thought that I may need to go back on methotrexate and prednisone. And 3 weeks after I got home and I had been juicing again, everything cleared up and I didn't have to go on any of the drugs or take another antibiotic.
And at this point, I'm developing strains. Yesterday, stumbled on a strain that's 22% CBD acid. The plant that I had the day before that was 1%. A absolutely phenomenal change in the plant's chemical composition, and particularly as it impacts, are you violating federal patents if you're using this plant? I mean, if they're commercially going to use CBD, then you have to deal with the patent. But individual use as a dietary element, the U.S. patent just is clear evidence as to why you want to eat this plant as a leafy green vegetable and include it in your diet several times a day.
I depend on right now on people who give me leaf because my partner is a cannabis physician and we worry about the legalities of growing our own right now and whether it could jeopardize his medical license. But we have a lot of patients that are able to grow less than 30 plants, and this allows them a fresh plant every day for juicing.
My number one project is to get the Convention 1 treaty, which is a UN committee that produced this treaty that I think there's 104 countries that have signed on to it, which says if you have, grow, possess, transport cannabis, you should be imprisoned. That is the document that every country in this world pounds people into the ground, cuts their heads off, imprisons them. And so you take this information that unheated, it's not psychoactive, it's a vegetable that improves the function of your immune system and bone metabolism and musculoskeletal. Once the world knows that it's a vegetable, that's all it is. The most important vegetable on the planet. Then these various things that are in place that prohibit people from having access will change. And so one of my agendas now is to try to get the treaty amended to remove cannabis so that cannabis can be available to everyone in the world as a dietary supplement.
And anyone who knows somebody who's sick, who has a loved one with an illness or themselves has suffered from one, understands that there are more important things to look at, and we have to be able to adapt. If what we're doing doesn't fit with what's needed in the world today, if how we make our living isn't supporting, it's not sustaining people's health, then we need to be able to grow and adapt and change.
You don't want to go from, I guess a lot of incarcerations to suddenly, it's a dietary essential. I mean, how do you make that leap? And so I'm hoping that we're in a phase where, we're gradually letting go of yesterday's nightmares and embracing the fact that, it's patented for its benefits, it's approved of by the FDA, and in fact is clearly a dietary essential that should be in everyone's diet. So I'm hoping that the DEA, which is lagging behind, will on cue with the whole organization decide that, okay, well, let's go ahead and reschedule this, because clearly we can't have a patent on its utility and say it has no utility. I mean, the conflict is just, it's patently absurd.
Well, everybody, absolutely amazing. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the movie. Here we go. Leaf.
I totally believe in what we're doing, and I think it's the most important thing that I can be doing right now. There are so many people who are sick, and if this can help them, people have to know about this. It's fantastic that I get to share this with my family, that we're doing this together, and that we both feel so passionately about it.
She was on over 40 different medicines. She had been on methotrexate and plaquenil, one of those which nearly destroyed her vision. All the potent anti-inflammatories, the Vioxx and Celebrex, and was on all sorts of painkillers and all sorts of antibiotics. She had classic steroid toxicity. Her face was the shape of a moon because there's a lot of swelling that occurs in the face. At the age of 16, was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and that evolved into a lupus condition, a diagnosis of interstitial cystitis, an autoimmune disorder. Bedridden 4 years. Her mother thought she would never survive.
I went to talk to William as a friend and as a doctor about his experience with patients and how they used cannabis. Seeing what the juicing did for me, using it in this form, was so significant. It changed my life. About 4 to 6 weeks after I started on juicing every day, I had no more back pain. I didn't need pain pills. I felt the best I ever had.
A lot of people think cannabis and pot are not medicine. I stumbled on an article in Scientific American, December 2004. They had an article on marijuana as the brain's own marijuana, and they introduced the idea that the body produces compounds that are very similar to those found in marijuana or cannabis. Cannabis actually goes upstream. It provides feedback from the postsynaptic nerve to the presynaptic nerve, which was unheard of in neurochemistry. I mean, all neurotransmissions were unidirectional, and all of a sudden, swimming against the force of that are these little cannabinoid molecules that tie the whole system together. The phytocannabinoids from this plant augment the body's attempt to restore and increase function to a normal level. So it mimics the regulatory system of cellular physiology. And recently, the Food and Drug Administration has approved of CBD, which is a cannabinoid like THC, one of 80 cannabinoids. The federal patent compares vitamin C, vitamin E, and CBD, or cannabidiol. CBD turns out to be more potent than either of those two.
The thing that I warn my patients of is, if you're going to be juicing this flower and this leaf, and you're going to be doing this high-dose, non-psychoactive cannabinoid dietary approach, please do not heat it.
When you heat cannabis, you make it psychoactive, which for a large part of the community, the psychoactivity of a plant is a measure of its medical quality. But it's really quite the inverse.
If you heat or age cannabis in any way, you're destroying some of the medicinal properties of it.
To use the plant effectively, we have to use it the way it evolved over 34 million years, which is raw. Because when it's raw, the THC is bound up as THC acid. It requires aging, drying. So as a hunter-gatherer, we gather this plant, we notice, wow, as this plant ages, it changes character. It suddenly has a psychoactive effect.
I think that's the most exciting area of cannabis research, is looking at non-psychoactive cannabinoids.
Because if you do heat it, you'll decarboxylate the THC acid, and you're going to have 600 milligrams of THC acid with the CBD acid. You would be unconscious probably for the better part of the week.
Between heating the plant, whether that's in a sucker, a cookie, a baked good, a butter, vaporized, smoked, all of those techniques convert THC acid, which is non-psychoactive, into THC and provide you with that 10 milligram dose. But if you eat the plant raw, then THC acid is the way it's found in the plant. It's not psychoactive. The juicing allows you to get up to the 500 to 600 milligrams, which is 60 times more than you could tolerate if it was heated.
This treatment is not psychoactive. People don't have to be stoned when they take it. They can take it and go to work. They can take it and play with their kids. It's hard for me to understand laws against something like green leaf therapy and to think that prednisone is legal.
We're still fighting the stigma of marijuana back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
I was a prosecutor for 8 years in Mendocino County, so I know it from both as a defense attorney and as a prosecutor. The 1972 Controlled Substances Act said that marijuana has no medical value whatsoever.
The federal government has a patent on its medical properties. The Food and Drug Administration has approved of it as investigative new drug.
I have not found the United States to be very open about cannabis research. In order to print an article in a peer-reviewed journal, you have to use cannabis that they have certified for your study. And there are physicians who have waited 3, 4, 5, 6 years, some even longer than that, to just get a sample.
The federal government's been kind of schizophrenic in the way it looks at marijuana. It says it has no medical value under that act, but at the same time, the federal government has been funding research in marijuana for years, for decades, and they've even patented certain strains of marijuana because they recognize it has that medical value. The California Narcotic Officers Association does not believe in medical marijuana. They believe it's all a big scam, and that's how they train law enforcement officers. Law enforcement is allowed to take a percentage of all assets that are forfeited and seized under the state and federal asset forfeiture law. So it takes the really enlightened and compassionate law enforcement officer to recognize that these medical marijuana laws are designed to protect patients.
I was trained when someone had marijuana, you took them to jail. There wasn't a medicine use for marijuana. It's an illegal substance, and people went to jail for it. In 1996, California took a huge leap. I didn't support Proposition 215 because of the education I had, the experience I had, and what I had seen through the illegal marijuana gardens that I had seen throughout my career. Since 1996, I have changed my opinion somewhat. I believe there is a very clear medicinal use for marijuana. That being said, I believe that there are a large percentage of people who use marijuana as an excuse to either make profits or for recreational. The people who use marijuana for the true intended use that the voters passed, medicinal, I'll do everything I can to support their rights. There's many more things that law enforcement can be focused on than medicinal marijuana. And I don't want to give the impression at all that I support people who are growing marijuana for medical purposes 364 days a year, and then one day a year they make a big sale for a couple $100,000, and they're a commercial seller that one day of the year. They're the people who are causing problems for the people who really and truly need and can use medical marijuana.
Terrifying, to be told as a parent that your child does have a tumor in her brain. It took 24 hours in the operating room. They gave us a 10% chance of survival with treatment.
At the Oakland Children's Hospital, where they called me and they said they had a baby who they were discharging home. This baby had completed all treatment that would be useful for it, had brain tumor, had surgery, had radiation and chemo, and the tumors were still growing and still multiplying, and therefore they said to the parents, just take this baby home and make it comfortable, because there's nothing more that we know that will help its condition.
Started to accept to the point where the illness had taken her and us, and try and find some acceptance.
A month went by and I got in contact with the family, and they said, well, we just came back from Children's Hospital. They did a CAT scan. The tumors have shrunk and there are fewer of them. And they said, I'll tell you what we've been doing. We've been juicing the fan leaves of the marijuana plant and giving our baby a shot glass of this juice every day. But this is like this wonderful hospice story. She is no longer on hospice. I brought the oxygen concentrator back. It's just one of those wonderful success stories. This, the plant is a pretty amazing plant because it appears that the juice of this plant is saving this baby's life.
Here we have something that can really change people's lives. I mean, I was laying in bed, catheterized, thinking that physicians were just trying to make me comfortable. They really didn't think that there was anything more that they could do, and that I may not live to be 30, which I am now. That was the best I could hope for. The best I could hope for was taking enough methadone and Percocet every day that I just didn't feel anything at all.
I had gotten in touch with Dr. Courtney because we had received a doctor's recommendation from one of his patients, and in it asked that they start juicing the leaves and having capsules and a few other items which I didn't know anything about. So after I contacted him, I was really excited to hear that there might be some other alternatives to the smoking of the cannabis.
These are friends we've had in the past year. They said, your father's not the same as he was when we first met him, and he seems to be much more alive and much, doing a lot more and more active. I had informed them that it was because of the juice that he had been taking. Right after we started juicing, that he seemed to be more active. We would do things out in the garage more, and he wouldn't spend so much time in his chair. But we have ran out periodically in the last year and a half, and that's what made me convinced that he needed it, because when he would run out, he would have trouble getting out of the car.
I had 4 doctors tell me that I should have a hysterectomy.
You either have no ovaries, or at the very least you're sterile.
That my endometriosis was so bad I would never be able to have a child.
Despite very potent birth control, despite being sterile, Zahaya decided she was going to come join the party.
We like to distinguish ourselves by being extremely scientific. And people know that if they're going to come to us, they're going to have to go through a lot of hoops, but they're also going to get the most up-to-date scientific knowledge on this subject. And they're going to see a physician who's an expert in the field of non-psychoactive cannabinoids. And there are plenty of people that want that and are looking for that. We opened our 5th office in Luxembourg. Their government is really sympathetic and open.
There's an international group studying autism and CBD in Luxembourg.
There's a physician there who's writing cannabis scripts, who's also a senator. And we've been working with him, Senator Colombera. The government may be actually funding experiments in a research center using cannabis, in large part because of Dr. Courtney's work with non-psychoactive cannabinoids and Senator Colombera's work with cancer patients.
There are now facilities for testing plants, and there's been more progress made in the last 5 or 6 months. A new strain in from Spain called Canatonic, 6.9% CBD. That's a 700% increase over Northern Lights, which is our previous high producer. I would like to find strains that have all of the cannabinoids present in an amount that's useful. I'd like to produce strains that are adapted to environment. In Luxembourg, we're producing thousands of pounds of seed, to raise the money to give away, a half a pound of seed, because if that person grows an acre of cannabis and feeds their family the proteins of scent and the fatty acids, and an incredible food source, an incredible preventative medicine source, and an incredible therapeutic source, and at the same time, they're sucking 5 times as much CO2 out of the environment as an acre of trees. First, we have to change Convention Treaty Number 1, which was the convention that the UN put out in 1961 that says cannabis is a crime, should be, if you have it, if you grow it, if it's in your possession, you should be in prison. That dogma has dominated the world right now. They're asking for input from the World Health Organization. I'm in the process of writing a letter stating that this is a dietary essential. It's not a criminal thing, because we have to change that treaty before we can go into
Central and South America and say, here, grow yourself an acre of this plant, feed your family, prevent illnesses. So Cannabis International kind of legalizing the plant globally, giving it back to people as a food source, prevent illness is so much better than waiting until you have diseases.
With my own experience and all the patients that I've spoken to, I believe that it's not an isolated incident, that this is the best medication.
Whoa! Now that definitely appears to be something interesting. Yes. I've seen something like this before. Yes, it's a superconductor. Yes, and there's something here on the wall, and I believe it's the key.
Turns out that it is the key.
Imagine a world we could live in, planting seeds in the minds of our children, and these trees and grow our solution. Hemp can heal the world. Imagine a world we could live in, planting seeds in the minds of our children, and these trees and grow our solution. Hemp can save the world.
You put a 2-year-old child in a crib with a bunny rabbit and an apple? Let me know when the child eats the bunny rabbit and plays with the apple. You have clothes on, and I notice that you have a cell phone and you have a computer. It is unfair to pick one thing that lions do that you want to mimic when you don't want to mimic anything else they do. When lions walk up and greet each other, they snip each other's ass. When I came in this room, you did not kneel down and sniff my ass.